Hi friends, Aitherea here, and today's video is a little different because it's not about Final Fantasy XIV, but to be honest, I'm kind of on break from 14. That doesn't mean I'm going to stop making 14 content, but I'm kind of good. I'm not really motivated to play 14 right now. I've gotten my fill of Dawn Trail content, and I'm ready to spend my time doing other stuff. I may eventually play other games, but right now what has been capturing my attention wholeheartedly has been Chinese dramas. I have been super addicted to Chinese dramas. If you know what K-dramas are, Korean dramas, it's kind of a similar thing, but they kind of have their own tropes and their own sort of genres. What I really like to watch is like historical fantasy romance, where usually it has like heavenly slash immortal beings. There's obviously the human world still. Usually there's what they call devils, which they aren't usually evil. I don't really know why they're called that. Some of them are evil, but a lot of times they're not. Like, I would say 99% of the time they're not evil. There's also the fairy, they call them fairies, but it's kind of like these spiritual beings who some of them start off as just like plants or animal spirits, and they like cultivate until they have like a human body and like immortal powers, or they can become immortals. I don't know, it's a whole thing, but it's really interesting and I really like it. And they are dramas, okay? So they get kind of wild and they can be really suspenseful and really just like, ooh, what's gonna happen next? And I absolutely find myself binge watching them. So today's video, I'm going to be talking about some of the tropes that I see in these dramas all the time that, I'm kind of getting a little tired of. Obviously, tropes are part of what kind of makes a genre a thing. It kind of like makes them what they are, but tropes can be good and bad, and sometimes I think it's really refreshing for a show to be like, what if we don't do this overused trope? So some of these, yeah, I'm a little tired of, and I'd like to see some change. So the first trope that I am totally over is saying that the female lead is not beautiful. Because for whatever reason, in so many of these dramas, they have like the most beautiful actresses playing the female lead. But at some point, there will be a character who will tell her, hey, the male lead, I can see that he likes you, but I don't get why. It's not because you're pretty. And I'm like, what? What do you mean she's not pretty? Like, there's so many times where they basically call them like average, or say that there's like so many other beautiful, more beautiful women than them. And it's so strange because in these dramas, they are easily like either the most beautiful girl in the drama or like within like the top three. They are always so pretty, but they are always getting called like average or even ugly. And I don't get it. Like, one of them that was like especially bad because it was kind of offensive. This girl put on like, they called it like black powder, but let's just call it foundation to make her skin darker. Now, she wasn't doing like blackface or anything, but it was just like a few shades tanner. Like, she had a very pale complexion and she made it like tan. And so this was like part of a disguise that she was doing. And the drama's called Dance of the Phoenix, by the way, if you're curious. And they were all calling her ugly when she had this like darker skin tone. But I'm like, she looks the same. All of her features, her eyes, her nose, her lips, like the shape of her face, her bone structure, like everything is the same except the color of her skin. I mean, they did her hair differently too and put her in like a, like, I don't know, poor person outfit or something, like raggedy kind of clothes. But I'm like, she looks the same. How is she magically pretty once she washes her foundation off? Doesn't make any sense and was also super offensive. Maybe the difference is that I have a different beauty standard than like whoever is making these dramas. I don't know, but I'm like, all of these actresses are so pretty. Why do we keep acting like they're not? It's just weird, and I don't buy it, and it feels like unnecessary. Like, what is the purpose? There's literally in all of these shows, whenever they like call them ugly, there's no point to it anyway. Like, what's the problem if she's beautiful? Like, why can't she be beautiful? And why can't the male lead think she's beautiful? Like, usually he does, but it's like, why can't the male lead also like that she's beautiful? It's just so weird. It's just so weird. Another trope I see a lot in these shows is kind of concerning. It's like they want to do this like bad boy archetype, or like the male lead who starts off really cold, but once you like break the ice, he's your total simp. But the problem I have is that usually he's not just like cold or standoffish, he is straight up terrifying, abusive, toxic sometimes. Like sometimes they start off really bad. Like I have seen more than one show where the male lead literally chokes the girl. He chokes the female lead at some point before they fall in love. That's scary. That is like I said, that's like almost like abusive. I don't know. It's kind of weird. And I feel like occasionally there's like a drama that does a decent enough job at explaining why he would do that and making you feel like, okay, that tracks. But most of them don't. Most of them feel like they go too far with this, where it's like, how do you expect someone to fall in love with the person who choked them out, the person who stabbed them, the person who, like, you know what I mean? Like these people who were like terrifying, who hurt you. Like it's weird. It's weird, and I feel like it'd be cool to see. It's weird, but I'm still eating these dramas up. Like I'm here complaining about it, but I'm also like I'm still eating these up. But it would be cool to see a drama where like maybe it doesn't go that far. I think that's one of the things I really appreciated about one of my favorite Chinese drama, probably my favorite Chinese drama. It's called The Starry Love, where the male lead doesn't ever physically harm her. He kind of does play like mind games with her, or like how do I say it? I want to say like prank. There's like one moment where he sort of pranks her, but he's also very cold and standoffish in the beginning, and there's a reason for it, and the reason makes like a ton of sense. So that one I really liked because they didn't do that. I was like, oh my God, I just watched a drama where for once he didn't choke her, because I swear to God, I have watched so many. Why does the male lead keep choking the female lead? Like, come on, let's stop with the choking. Take your hands off, keep your hands to yourself. There's no reason for this. Okay, I feel like that's enough. Let's move on to my next trope that I'm real tired of. The next trope that I'm super done with is miscommunication and or just straight up lying. I feel like miscommunication, not even just in Chinese dramas, but it's like rampant in Chinese dramas, but like just in writing in general, whether it's a story, a TV show, a movie, whatever. It's so often that writers use miscommunication to somehow like further the plot or make something happen, but like the misunderstanding never actually makes sense, because it's like there's no reason that this person couldn't have or wouldn't have, because sometimes it feels out of character for them not to. But it just feels like, why wouldn't they take the time, the 60 seconds, sometimes less, to explain something to the other person? And they just like straight up don't. Like they just straight up don't say anything. I'm like, why would you, like, why? Why aren't you can see that they're upset. And you know that if you just like explain this to them, they'll understand, but they just don't. And sometimes it's like even worse than that, where like they don't bother communicating, they don't bother talking things out, they don't bother telling each other important information, and then they use that to turn it into this like domino effect of like different consequences to make the story more suspenseful and stuff like that. But sometimes it's just annoying. I feel like one of the worst offenders for me was this drama called Till the End of the Moon. I mean, I couldn't stand the female lead in that one, to be honest. She was awful. I've never like disliked a female lead more. Like she was literally the worst. I don't even want them to be together because she doesn't deserve him. But anyways, yeah, it was like that one was one of the worst, where like they could have just told each other some stuff and everything would have been fine, but they didn't. And this happens so often. Then along with miscommunication, which is really annoying, they have some characters that just like straight up lie, just for like, again, like it feels like there's not really a good reason for them to lie. It's like just for the sake of the plot. It's basically just poor writing because they can't figure out a better way to like make something happen that they want to happen. So they're like, what if they just lie? What if they just lie? So a lot of times they'll give the excuse of like, oh, I'm not gonna bother telling them this because like they don't really need to know. It'll make them unhappy. Let's just like let them live in ignorant bliss or something. But then it's like once the character finds out that you've been lying to them, they're not very happy about it. And now they can't trust you. And then that causes another slew of problems. And it's just sometimes it's just super annoying. Like I feel like instead of good writing where there's like external problems and challenges, they are just like, what if they just don't tell each other shit? And it's so annoying. It's so annoying. This is one of the tropes that I actually can't stand. Like, I feel like a lot of these tropes, I'm like, yeah, I'm kind of tired of these and it'd be refreshing not to see it. But this is the one that actually, like, ticks me off so much that I, like, stop enjoying a drama when this happens to, like, it depends on the extent because there's a spectrum. If it's just, like, a little bit, I can handle it. But once, like, till the end of the moon, I was like, oh my God, this is pissing me off. Another thing I see a lot in these dramas is that people die and come back to life like all the time. Like it's a really huge trope in these dramas, and I have mixed feelings about it because I think the thing that I dislike about it the most is it's like a really, really common trope, usually for one of the leads. Lately, in the ones I've been watching, it's been the female lead to sacrifice themselves to save the world. So they like die at the end. And sometimes it's the male lead that does this. And then usually they do come back to life, which is like the silver lining. Like they'll die at the very end of the show after they sacrifice themselves to save everyone. And then it'll be like 10 years later. And then like the other lead character of the couple will like find them and it'll be like, okay. And then the show ends with you knowing that they are alive again. But it's still one of these things where it just is starting to feel like really overused. And why can't we just like have a happy ending? Why can't we just have a happy ending where nobody has to die to save the world? Why can't they just fight, have like a really intense fight or something, and then they happen to win because of all the pre-planning that they did that the show tells you they did? Maybe they get some sort of magical artifact that helps them win. I don't know. Maybe they win through the power of friendship and love. I don't give a shit. But why do they always have to die? And this like moves into like some of my next points for like tropes that I don't like, or like I guess this isn't even a trope. This is just that some stuff doesn't make sense. I mean, it's somewhat of a trope because I feel like there's so many of these dramas where they just feel like the viewer is just gonna buy everything. And I do feel like me personally, I'm a lot more lenient for these kinds of dramas because let's be real, what I'm here for is the love story and nothing else. So as long as they're cute with each other, I'm like, you can do almost anything. As long as they're cute and don't have stupid misunderstandings that they draw out for multiple episodes because they don't take 30 seconds to say something to the other one. I'll deal with just about anything as long as like, you know, like I said, it's cute and there's not so many miscommunications. But it's so common for them to just like not explain things or to just like have kind of like inconsistencies or just stuff that like doesn't make sense. So for example, I was just talking about how common it is for like a character to like die and come back to life. And a lot of times they do explain it. They'll be like, hey, this person still has like a piece of their soul in this world through like a memory shard or like a seed that's like inside of your heart because blah blah blah. Like they just find like there's some piece of them still existing in the world, so they're able to like be reborn out of that piece. Okay, I'm like, whatever, that's fine. There's an explanation. But in one of the recent dramas I watched, especially because the character I believe was technically a human, not an immortal being, not a fairy, not a devil, and like they were human, so they were like the weakest of the weak, lowest of the low kind of thing. Because the humans usually are like they just live normal lives. They don't have usually magic. Sometimes they do. Like sometimes in some shows the humans can like cultivate and become immortal or like cultivate spiritual powers. It depends on the show. But one of them I watched, she dies at the end, and then she comes back like 15 years later or something. They find her again, but they never explain how she came back to life because, like, she wasn't an immortal. She was just a human. And there was just absolutely no explanation. It wasn't like, oh, there's still a piece of her in this world, or like, oh, her essence has been imbued to this thing, so now we can cultivate her. No, she just randomly, like, shows up again. I'm like, for all intents and purposes, she should be, like, dead. She should be, like, gone for good based on what just happened in this show. Like, she really should be. Because, like, in that show, her essence was, like, dispersed to, like, purify everybody. Like, how is she alive? And they never, like, collect it back from people. They can't. They can't. Like, that was the point. And how is she alive again? How is she alive again? I'm happy about it because I don't like tragic endings, but, like, what the heck? Another thing that they do a lot is they will have something happen and they'll just, like, blame it on a character, even though there is absolutely no evidence that character did that thing. It's not a logical conclusion that anyone would ever come to in real life. Like, you know what I mean? Like, if you saw a dog tied up outside, and then, like, some random person just happened to be walking around in the neighborhood, you wouldn't be like, you tied this dog up outside. Like, that would never be a logical conclusion that you would come to. You might go and ask them, like, do you know whose dog this is or something? But if they're just some random person who happens to be out for a walk, why would you ever put two and two together and, like, you would never do that. Like, it would not even be two and two. You would never be like, oh, this is absolutely the person who tied the dog up. And they do that all the time in some of these. I mean, like I said, there's definitely some C-dramas that are better than others because they don't do these things. But it is something that I feel like I see often where they just start, like, blaming a character for no reason. Like, there's no logical, sensical reason. There's no evidence. But then, like, the character, because they got blamed, has to go through this whole series of, like, now I have to prove that I'm the one who didn't do it, when, like, there's literally no reason to suspect them in the first place. It's so weird. It's so weird. Okay, and finally, the last trope that I'm totally tired of, I'm actually really done with this trope, is a tragic ending. And I feel like this kind of goes hand in hand with, like, the whole sacrificing themselves trope, but at least in a lot of the ones where they sacrifice themselves, like, they do come back to life and, like, you know, okay, it technically has a happy ending because the lead characters are going to get to be together again. But every now and then there's one with a tragic ending and you're like, I just went through all this. And let me tell you, these C-dramas are a ride, okay? There's a lot of stuff that happens and you're like, they had to go through all that suffering and all this and all that and all that, and they finally got to a point where their relationship is stable. They know they love each other. They're not betraying each other anymore if they ever were. I also hate it in dramas when they betray each other. Please don't. I don't want to see. That's not the kind of love story I want to see. No betrayal, please. But, like, you know what I mean? It's like they go through so much, and you as the viewer, all you could ever want is for them to just get to be together at the end. And then the tragic ending is usually that, like, one of them dies and, like, they can't be reborn and they don't get to be together. And it's like the worst thing ever. Like, and some of these dramas are really, really long, where it's like, I just spent, like, hours of my life, because it's like, they're like 40-minute episodes and there's like 40 of them. Some of them are even longer. I feel like a lot of the ones I've been watching are like 30 to 40 episodes, but I've seen some dramas that have like 100 episodes. So it's like, if you spend all that time, you know, it feels really bad for there to be a tragic ending, and I really hate that. So I feel like I could kind of chalk up to the tropes I'm tired of as kind of being like bad writing, but I'm still super addicted to these shows and will watch them anyway because honestly, it's a lot of fun. And I feel like, you know what, as long as the entertainment value is there and you're enjoying it and you like it, then it doesn't really matter if it's technically kind of bad. Like, this is definitely one of my guilty pleasures. And I do appreciate the dramas that subvert expectations, that don't follow all of these tropes. Because I feel like a lot of them, there's going to be at least one or two of these tropes in there, but, like, some of them don't follow all of them. I feel like the most common one at this point is the female lead that sacrifices herself and comes back to life. I feel like I just, at this point, can, like, predict that it's going to happen. So I do appreciate the dramas that are, like, you know, better that either don't use a lot of these tropes or subvert expectations, don't use these tropes at all. But I can still get on board with some of the crappier ones that do, because at the end of the day, they're just real fun to watch. And before I go, I'm going to recommend 3 dramas that I really enjoyed in case you are looking for something. Number 1, The Starry Love. This is my favorite drama like ever. This drama is so good. It's so freaking good. It's on Viki if you want to watch it. It's free to watch. Incredible. This is literally my favorite. The second one is Love Between Fairy and Devil. This is a really popular drama. This drama, I feel like, is going to go down in history as a classic. It's not that old. I don't remember exactly when it came out, but I don't think it's any older than like 2017. So I don't know if it's old enough to be called a classic, but I think it's going to be a classic because it's a fan favorite, has really good ratings. And I find the female lead in that one to be really, really refreshing, especially after some of the other dramas I've watched. But I won't spoil it. That's all I will say about that one. And the third one I want to recommend is one that I just watched recently. It's called Back from the Brink. I really, really binged watched that one. It definitely has some things about it that I think maybe didn't make the most sense, but I feel like for the most part the show made sense. There's just a few things here and there that didn't. But these are 3 that I really, really, really enjoyed. I thought they were really fun to watch. I thought there were certain things about them that if they didn't completely subvert the trope, they at least did the trope in a way that was enjoyable to watch and didn't feel painful to watch. I felt like in these, a lot of the times the characters were really likable, or they stayed true to themselves and who their character was. So overall, those are some of my favorite dramas. If you want more drama recommendations, come to my Discord channel. And if you actually watched this whole thing, because I don't know who's even going to want to watch something like this, put, how about a moon in the comment section? Because for whatever reason, these dramas make me think of the moon. And with that, let me know in the comment section if you like watching dramas, Chinese dramas, Korean dramas, whatever. Any that you've watched that you've really liked, if this happens to be something we have in common. And as always, please consider leaving a sacrifice for Lord Algorithm in the form of a like, comment, share, or subscribe. Thank you so much for watching, and thank you so much to my channel members for supporting me. Bye!